Hello, everybody. Um, so, the last time that I was on stage for longer than 5 minutes, I was 13 years old. I was in school, and I played a TV stand, not a TV, a TV stand, and I had to stand on stage for 15 minutes with the TV. So there was a lot of self-reflection happening, and I thought to myself, "This is it. I've peaked. It's all downhill from here." Thank God that was only partially true. So I'm Anna Raphy. I am an animator. Now, usually when people ask me what I do for a living, and I'm referring to the older crowd here, if I call myself an animator, there's a lot of panic, there's a lot of tension. Because when I say that I'm an animator, they'll ask me, which college did you go to? I'll say, no, I'm self-taught. So then they'll give me an awkward smile and they'll be like, so you're technically not an animator. You just call yourself an animator. I'll be like, yeah. So this tends to happen because we are defined by our degrees, our training, or our skills. And there's nothing wrong with that. So since I don't have a degree in animation, or even a regular degree, these days when people ask me what I do for a living, I say I do my best. I do my best every day, and I walk away very slowly. So, like I said, these skills, these degrees, this is what defines us. And these past couple of years, what I've learned, or what I've come to believe, is that more than these degrees and more than our training, it's our limitations or our reaction to limitations that define us and make us unique. And by limitations, I mean things that we lack or something that we're going through, something difficult. That doesn't mean that the next time someone asks you what do you do for a living, you say, I have diabetes. That's not the point. But talking about limitations, growing up, we are taught or we're told that limitations are something embarrassing. When our parents or when our teachers detect a limitation, their immediate reaction is to eliminate it. You simply can't have this limitation, it can't exist. You're bad at something, you practice and you work hard till you're not bad at it. You're like average at it at least. There's nothing wrong with practicing and improving. That's a good thing, it takes you far. But what happens when we all react to limitations the same way? We unconsciously start aiming for the same standard of good. Now, like I said, these limitations, we are conditioned to believe they are our weaknesses, and we tend to not talk about them. We always keep it hidden. I'll give you an example. I'm very bad at math, extremely bad at math. And in school, especially in middle school, you struggle a lot to cover your bases. That's very important. But once you're covered and you move to high school and +1 and +2, things get a little wonky. Because for me, I realized I don't like math. I don't want to be good at math. I don't want to do anything related to math. So why do I have to work hard to be good at this? And for every parent-teacher meeting, my parents got to hear the same dialogue that I feel most of us have heard before, which is, if she works a little harder, she can get there. Get where? I don't want to go there. Do you want me to go there? That could be dangerous. So things changed when I reached +1 and +2. We got a new math teacher, and he would be taking classes. I'd be in my little corner, and I'd be doodling in my notebook. This is what we pretentious artsy students tend to do in class. We doodle a lot instead of taking notes. But I'm just kidding, it's not pretentiousness. The reason why I used to do it is because something's happening in class which is too complicated for me to understand. So it makes me feel like I'm not good enough, or at least the other students are trying to understand and I can't even do that. So I resort to doodling, which is what I think I'm good at. So it calms my own nerves. This is the reason why I used to do it. Now, my sir, he used to do his rounds, check everybody's notes. He'd check my note. He'd look at me. I'd look at him. He'll see all the flowers and the clouds and the rainbows. And he would smile and be like, I would also smile. And then he'll say, just quit. And for me, this was groundbreaking. Because in school, usually teachers don't ask you to quit, they motivate you. In college, you hear it every other Tuesday. Like, you're wasting somebody's seat, please get out. But in school, teachers are usually, they motivate you. So this was very, you know, a different thing for me. Now this happened because my teacher knew me well enough. He knew that I hated math. He knew that I didn't want to have to do anything with math. But he also knew that in the end, I would do just about enough to get enough grades and just pass. So he knew that there was no point in pressurizing me to be good at something that I didn't want to be good at. So from then on, for every class, I'd be sitting and doodling in my corner. I wouldn't disturb him. He'd be taking classes. He wouldn't disturb me. It was a really nice ecosystem. Now, sorry. So this was very a life-changing thing for me because I realized that there's this problem, a limitation, that I am bad at math. There is also a solution that I can work really hard and become really good at it. But I didn't want the solution. And now my sir has introduced this concept of quitting, which was very new to me. I realized, oh, you can quit? And so I took that advice very seriously. I took it to college and I quit immediately. Third year of college, I quit. I left. I said, I can't do this. So limitations. When we deal with limitations, there are a couple of ways we deal with it. First one is, like I said, we eliminate it. We work hard to get rid of it. Second one is a professor comes along and tells you you can quit, so you quit. But quitting is never ideal. It's usually a last resort. The third one is where you sit and listen to your limitation and you try to think of a way that you can fix this, which is a little unconventional. Now, you realize that the solution to this limitation is not just quitting or working really hard to eliminate it. You can do something different with it, and this builds identity. I'll give you an example. After I dropped out of college, I was at home. Now, there was nothing to quit. I was at home. Now, I had this slight interest in animation. I wanted to try it out. And I had a laptop, I had a mouse, I had Photoshop. How do you animate using these three? You don't. You find a loophole. That's what lazy people do. So what I did was I opened Photoshop and I thought, how do I do this? I can sit and look at videos for hours and study animation or the basics of animation, but I didn't want to do that because after dropping out of college, I decided that I'm not going to put any sort of pressure on myself. I'm just going to enjoy what I'm doing. So for one of my earlier works, I made an animation for Nadan Parinde, the song Kagare Kagare. And while working on that song, the first frame I drew was a bird. So now there's a bird. Now drawing a bird using a mouse was difficult enough. I sat in front of the bird and I thought, what do I do now? To move to the next frame, there should be a movement, otherwise it's a slideshow. I'll have to make the bird fly. Then there was pressure. I realized I have to learn bird anatomy. But I was not willing to make that kind of a commitment. I realized that's not what I'm going to do. I knew the basic of animation. It was a bunch of frames mashed together, so it gives you an illusion of movement. That was good enough for me. I'm not going to learn more than that. So what I did was I discovered the warp tool on Photoshop. Warp tool is basically where it's like using clay to stretch it, to turn it into something else. So what I do is I duplicate this frame a lot. I keep warping it. Eventually, it forms the shape of the next frame that I want, which is a man standing like this. And I mash all of these frames together. I put it in a video editing software, and I realized, I've cracked it. It's happening so fast, people won't even realize this is so stupid. Now, I started to really enjoy this process, and I started posting online. I didn't think much of it. It was a silly animation, sloppy. But I really enjoyed the process. And slowly, it gained a lot of popularity, and I started getting work from films, which was very shocking. I thought to myself, are they serious? Do they not realize how easy this is? Now, the reason why this happened is not because I followed the rules or took time to perfect my animations. It happened because I used my limitations, which were my limited resources, my limited skills, and my limited enthusiasm to learn more. And I feel like back then, if I had waited for everything to fall into place, to wait for an iPad or a tablet or a stylus, I probably wouldn't have ended up creating this niche. It happened because I made use of my limitations. And this is just my example. There's plenty of examples in films, especially, where limitations have created something very unique and iconic. The Godfather. The Godfather has extremely unique lighting. It has a top lighting, which creates so much nuance in the scenes. This only happened because Marlon Brando's makeup was really bad. And under normal light, it looked very unflattering. So they decided to go with top lighting, which made the movie iconic. Now, coming to another film, Jaws. Jaws used a mechanical shark, and the mechanical shark was malfunctioning. They couldn't use it. So instead of fixing that problem, what they did was they avoided showing the shark for most part of the films. There's just suspense and music. Now, this laid the benchmark for future survival type movies because we're not seeing the monster, it creates fear. And another film that I absolutely love and I love geeking out on is Jojo Rabbit. I'm sure most of you have seen it. If you haven't, you should definitely check it out. It's a wonderful film. Now, Jojo Rabbit is set in Nazi Germany, one of the darkest time periods in history. And we've seen so many films deal with the same topic. And usually it's dealt in a dark, gritty fashion, sad. Sometimes it's a little heartfelt. Now, here is this film, you have this topic, and there's this limitation that this topic has been presented in many ways before. How do you show it in a unique way? What they do is, the protagonist is a kid who is obsessed with becoming a Nazi. And we see his journey through colorful frames. And on paper, this idea is very absurd. A child who's obsessed with being a Nazi, people would find it disrespectful. But the film is absolutely beautiful. It takes you into a completely different world. And when it ends, you realize, wow, that was really life-changing. It changes your views. It's very heartfelt, very heartwarming. We see this little boy's journey, meeting different people, having different conversations, different things happening to him, and his whole world changing because of it. So the director, Taika Waititi, instead of taking this dark theme and adding more darkness into it, he tilted the lens and showed it in a different way. The result was something very iconic, very memorable, and extremely beautiful. So most of us, we feel stuck when we are faced with limitations. And what we tend to do is we wait for all of the pieces to fall into place. We wait for everything to get right, to get started. But that is never necessary. What you need to get started is just a little bit of curiosity. If you sit with your limitations, even for a little bit, and just think of unconventional ways to deal with them, you will surprise yourself, trust me. You will create something that you shock even yourself. And that, I feel, is way better than working hard towards something that you don't even want to work hard towards. Work with your limitations, listen to it, give it some space, sit with it, and trust me, it'll help you stand out from the crowd. And with that, I would like to end my TED Talk. And also, I'm so happy I finally get to say this. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.